Reassess Your Chess with International Master Attila Turzo, the Imbalances, Part 1. In this series of streams, we will study the classical book How to Reassess Your Chess by Jeremy Silman. We will study the 4th edition. And I plan to add also some new examples about the different ideas which is discussed in the book. So our textbook will be that book, but I hope to add some new material and new ideas. So you can also benefit from it if you already studied the book. So today's session will be like the basic session. We will discuss, or at least we will start to discuss the imbalances, the different positional concepts which studied in this book. Yeah, the general structure of the book is about first discussing the different ideas, the different key positional concepts which will be written about in details in the coming chapters. So like the first, let's talk about the different imbalances. As different imbalances, let me tell you what will be about. Will be about superior minor pieces. That will be the first we will discuss. Then will be about pawn structure. We will study about space. We will discover the secrets of material. We will explore the control of the key file. Then the control of a whole or a weak square. Then we'll go in details about leading development. Then we will arrive soon to the initiative. And before last, we will study king safety. And then we will discuss the differences about statics and dynamics and how to play when you have a static advantage or when you have a dynamic advantage. Okay, let's start about the first imbalance to have a little review, which will be the superior minor piece, bishops versus knights. So let me set up a position which we will discuss about the power of the minor pieces when the bishop or when the knight is superior to each other. What are the characteristics of the position which you can recognize when you look at position, and that will help you to decide if you want to play with the bishop or with the knight, or you are allowing an exchange which will be favorable for you or for the opponent. So the position is ready soon. Yeah, this is the position, white to move. So let's think a little bit about this one. Who is better and why? Yeah, if you are watching this, then please think about this. Maybe you can write a comment about what you think. So any ideas? If you compare the knight and the bishop, what do you think? The knight is better or the bishop is better? Usually how I evaluate a position, or how I evaluate the value of a piece is depends on the power of the piece. And how can we recognize the power of a piece? I think it depends on the number of squares it controls and it attacks, the influence of the piece. So if we count the number of squares, for example, the knight can move first, it can move to d8, h8, h6. Those are the squares which really can move, and those are two more which under attack, so not really possible to. So the knight has 5 possible squares to move, and if you look to bishop, bishop has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares which can really move, and another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, another 6 squares, 11 squares. So if you look the difference of the number of the squares which can be reached by the pieces, then we can look the clear difference between the knight and the bishop. So the bishop is much better here. And as you can look also, because there are other pieces on the board, especially because the queens are still on the board, white has probably a very strong possibility to attack the black king. So if we say white to move here, actually I think the good idea is to move the bishop probably to c3. With the idea of queen d4, and looks like it should be winning, I think, because black just cannot prevent the penetration. Of course, white has also advantage in the center to control center squares, much better, plus more space, especially on the queen side. And the black king is vulnerable. So probably after bishop c3, yeah, white is just winning. So this was an example where we looked when the bishop was better from knight. Okay, then let's look now an example when the knight will be better. So let's set up position. Actually, no problem. I could remain the. Okay. I will set a position which actually kind of similar. So the pawn structure is something similar on the queen side at least. On the king side, white has even more space than before. So white king and black king. Let me put on rooks. One rook, two rook, queen. So in the first detailed chapter of the book will be about the minor pieces. We will discuss when the knight is better, when the bishop is better, how to play when you have a good knight or you have a good bishop, or you have a bad bishop or a bad knight, so how to try to get counterplay. So this is the next position, white to move. So let's discuss a little bit this one. Let's just follow up the rule which I said, to make the difference of the pieces, to look which is better, to count the number of the squares which are available for them. black bishop has 2 squares available and 2 more, which is not really available because they are protected. Look, the white knight has actually just 2 real squares available, but another 4 available, at least theoretically. So if you just count that, that's already, so black knight is better. But what we can look, the black knight actually, so the white knight is attacking this pawn on c7, which is a weak pawn. I call a pawn a weak pawn, which if a pawn cannot be protected by its own pawns, only by pieces. So this is a weak pawn, plus also it's controlling a really important weak square around the black king. Yeah, which if a queen would go to help, it would be sometimes a checkmate. So the white's position is really better. And here comes probably a plan, which was also suggested one of the viewers, is to come with the rook to rook b1, rook b7. So attack that weak pawn, which also attacked by the knight. And the rook will attack also the a7, so probably maybe queen d4 will also come, like in the last example. Because that queen will attack not only the a7 pawn, but certainly also the king. Okay, so this will be the first main chapter, the minor pieces. And let's look the next one, next example, which will be about pawn structure. Let me set up another position about the pawn structure. Where we will discuss special pawns, or at least a few different options. Yes, you look, black has an extra pawn, but we will look the value of the pawns also, what the differences of the pawns, which will be the main theme of discussion in this chapter. So let me check, yeah, this is the position, and yeah, white to move. So let's discuss a little bit about the pawn structure. So yeah, as we said, black is up a pawn, and he has 2 pass pawns, and white has 1 pass pawn, but the white pass pawn is actually closer to the queening square, plus the queening square is supported by the bishop and by the rook. Okay, thank you very much for the follow, got king. So because of that super strong pawn, actually white has a very good position, probably a winning position. So white plays b7 with the threat of b8. Black can only prevent the queening in one way. Rook b8. Then capture. And actually to support the pass pawn, we have this wonderful rook. But what we should do is try to eliminate the blockader. Another idea, eliminate the blockader. We will discuss about the pawn structure. An important tool to play against the pawns to blockade them. So try to exchange this rook is a good idea. Queen c6 with the idea of, after exchanging the rooks, playing, or even without exchanging the rook, play queen c8. Capture, and pawn captures back. So white wins a rook for the pawn. Yeah, if you capture, then we just capture back. Bishop e5 can support, but it's not long run. Check. Yeah, and then I think can exchange. Yeah, even playing f4 is fine. Take. Rook a1, we died. The rook takes a6, rook a8 coming. And this pass pawn is captured by the white king. So actually white is winning here. Okay, let's go back a little bit. A few moves. If he's not exchanging the queens, that will probably not help much. Playing queen d8, yeah, try to keep the queens on the board, because then comes the move queen c8. Yes, we said before. We are sacrificing the queen because we will get a new queen. Bishop e5. Capture, exchanging queens, and then rook c8. One more piece comes again to support the push of the pawn. And here white wins. So this was an example about pawn structure, about one special and very important type of pawns, the pass pawns. Let's look the next example, which will be about a different type of pawns. Pass pawn is a strong pawn, but we will discuss an example where there will be a weak pawn instead of a strong pawn. See, look, the white pawn structure looks very nice. They are defending each other. That's normally a good thing with your pawns, if you can support each other, because then you need to just protect with pieces, maybe the last pawn, but all other pawns are defending each other. So you will have your resources do other things than just protecting your pawns. Okay, kings are in the castle position. Let's put on rooks. So black rooks are protecting the e6 pawn, the white rooks are attacking it. Okay. This is a nice typical position about a weak pawn. Which pawn is weak in this position? What do you think? Which pawn is weak? Yeah, normally a pawn which is called an isolated pawn, which is isolated from the other pawns, so it's left alone. That's a weak pawn. Like here's an e6 pawn. This is an isolated pawn, and the problem with this pawn, or the problem can be, it cannot be protected by other pawns. So this is really a weak pawn, and that can be a clear goal, a clear strategy in your games. If the opponent has a pawn which you can attack, an isolated pawn, you try to attack it, until you can capture it, and then with the extra pawn you will try to win in the endgame. Try to create a pass pawn from the extra pawn and queen it. Okay, so if you don't know what to do in chess, then find the weak pawn in the opponent camp, attack it until you win it, then create a pass pawn with the extra pawn and queen it, and then with the extra queen, checkmate the opponent. Of course, there are many times there are no weak pawn in the opponent camp. Then you can think about, maybe you can make some favorable exchanges of pawns, which creates the opponent some weak pawns. We will discuss that much later. So let's look about this e6 pawn. What should white do? Yeah, if we discuss a little bit the position, yeah, this is clear that pawn is weak. So white decided his game plan to going after it. You know already the white rooks and the queen. Okay, one other important idea. When you attack a pawn weakness, Kappa was, thank you for follow. When you attack a pawn weakness, you want to put your king, your queen, the back, the last piece. So first the rooks and then the queen, because when after all the captures, you want to capture last with the queen. But if you want to attack the king, then you want to put your queen first, because example like the queen is on h6, the rook is on h1, you want to capture with the queen to give the checkmate. Okay, then just imagine a special situation, but normally you capture first with the queen to give the checkmate. But when you want to make a positional pressure, then you want your queen to be the last one. So it captures in the end. So yeah, as you look, the white pieces are teamed up together to attack this pawn, but still the black pieces are also protecting. So 3 attacks, 3 defense. Then let's add one more piece, as we said. Knight d8 to protect. So 4 attacking, 4 defending. And here comes the 5th piece, the white knight. And so sometimes this is a really ideal example, of course, but this is generally the strategy about the weak pawn. You try to add more and more pressure on it, more and more pieces to attack, and hopefully in one moment the opponent cannot add the defender, and then you will attack it one more time, so you can start to capture it. And you make exchanging all the pieces and you win the pawn. Yeah, and in this game, black played bishop b8. Probably this had even more possibilities for white, because white played a nice move here, f5. This is possible because this pawn is not only an isolated pawn, but this pawn is also pinned. You know, it's when a piece is pinned or a pawn is pinned, it's losing its defending and attacking power actually. So it cannot capture the pawn, because then this rook it's hanging yet, so it's attacked 3 times and then defend only 1 time. You capture with the g pawn, but then bishop takes f5. Okay, and then this pawn will still fall in the next move, plus white gained another advantage of to weaken the black king by playing f5, making this exchange of pawns that made the black king even weaker than before. Okay, wonderful. So this was the second imbalance, the second positional concept which we discussed, the pawn structure. So let's move on. And the next one will be space. Let me set up a position about the space. Yeah, the space actually, as you will look, that's also related to the pawn structure. Because normally the space, we count the space or the available squares behind our pawns. Well, you can look here, this is, if you just look the pawn structure, it already shows how much more space white has behind his pawns. You can also imagine this kind of like a border of a country. Yeah, the pawn structure is the border of your country and how much land you have behind your border. So the white's territory or space or countries is bigger than the black's territory or space. Okay, let's put on some pieces. Because without pieces, actually space has less importance. Actually, the number of pieces grow on the board, or still remaining on the board, maybe that's better to say, the more important the space. Because if there are many pieces on the board, then they have actually less space left, because the pieces can blocking each other. As you look like already in the, if I add a few more pieces for black, it's already, as you look, the white knights and the white bishop still has many possibilities to move around, but the black knights and the black bishops are really has limited possibilities and actually blocking each other. And if we add even rooks on the board, if you look for black, that's then the blockade will be close to ready or full. They are just have not much freedom. And I add also the queens, and you can look fully the situation here. So let's talk a little bit about space. Yeah, kind of the black pieces has no air. Very hard to move anywhere. Also, so white gains space and has space advantage also actually, like also on the king side, if you look on this territory, also in the center, and also on the queen side. So everywhere on the board has more space. Oops, we remove this one. Yeah, the white pieces can just move around much easier than the black pieces. And what can be the strategy for white? And what can be the strategy for black? Let's discuss just very quickly. And let's start with the player who is in a harder situation, black. Normally for the player who has less space, you would like to exchange pieces. As you looked before, when there were less number of pieces, they had some more possibilities to move on. So black would like to try to exchange the pieces on the board, so they are not blocking each other. Compare against this, so white would like to keep the pieces on the board because he's happy to move around still with that number of pieces. So white would like to prevent the exchange of the pieces. This is one important idea. The next one is the player with the more space would like to make a breakthrough. So probably here would like to make a breakthrough with c4 c5 or g4 g5. So what is a breakthrough? Actually, the breakthrough is a pawn move, pawn exchanges. So would like to make a favorable pawn exchange to open up the position, open up a few files, diagonals, and in the hope, like the newly opened files, he can use better than the opponent. So white hope to, example, open up the g5 quickly, and then maybe bring the other rook and maybe the queen also to work, and then use the open file to checkmate the black king. Or play for c5 and open up the file and try to penetrate to the position and start to win maybe pawns. So here, yeah, white has several logical possible moves, like maybe playing g5 or c5, or preparing the probably I would prepare maybe the g5 break with maybe rook g1, or even rook h1 to use the two rooks to attack the king. Okay, so this is about the positional team space. Let's move on to the next one, which will be material. Okay, to set up position about material, let's set up a few pawns for white and a few pawns for black. Okay, let's add the kings, the bishops. As you can look, the material is equal, so white has 6 pawns, black has 6 pawns, 2 bishops versus 2 bishops. We add 2 rooks for white, 2 rooks for black, a queen for white and a queen for black. And here we are, white to move. What do you think about this? Yeah, we discussed already the imbalance about the minor pieces, the superior minor pieces, and we discussed the imbalance about space and pawn structure, and this is the fourth one, which is about material. Yeah, material means pawns and pieces. Because here, example, white can think about to win a pawn. Actually, the b7 pawn is hanging. And in this kind of situation, you should think about if it's worth to get the pawn. Because as we looked like before, I think in the imbalance about the pawns, we look the weak pawn. So that can be a plan to actually attack a weak pawn, win it. And that means you will have a material advantage, and then you try to win the game with your material advantage, with your extra pawn to hopefully queen it, and then win a piece if they sacrifice or get a new queen, and then checkmate the opponent. Okay, so it looks like both white and black has a solid position. Yeah, actually the black bishops are maybe a little bit more active, looks like, because the c1 bishop is, yeah, it's protecting, but it's, and have a nice diagonal, but it's not really an attack, it's more like a defending one. Yeah, if the black pawn would be like c6 as we said, then the b7 would be hanging and have no problems. So the move here is for white is bishop takes b7, winning the pawn. So what will white get after this one? Of course he has an extra pawn, so that's something very material and we can touch, that's advantage. But also it gives an endgame advantage, because now it actually breaks the black's pawn structure. So black will have an isolated pawn, which we looked before, it can be a target for the future to attack. a7 plus, there are 2 pawns that they call the hanging pawns. They are kind of 2 pawns, 2 isolated pawns together. So they can actually defend each other. Also, actually, this weakens after this capture. The c6 square became a weak square, became a hole, which we will discuss later about weak squares. A weak square is a square which cannot be protected anymore by pawns. So you look, black cannot protect it anymore because the d pawn already moved in and there is no b pawn. Yeah, and also actually this has maybe also control the d5 square, maybe a easier control. Yeah, white has the super nice diagonal. Of course, also this pawn puts some pressure on black, because now black should figure out something. So you need to justify the loss of the pawn. If it was a sacrifice, then he should need to show his cards, what he has for it. Yeah, if it was a blunder, then you still need to try to get some counterplay. Yeah, black has a few try to take advantage of this. Bishop is kind of went too far away. Play maybe c6 to idea to blocking the way of the bishop and try to win it. But white has a little tactics here to play against this one. Is queen c4. It's a double attack, actually forcing king to move, and then white grabs even one more pawn. So c6 is not an option. There's also bishop g4 to try to play. Faraway is raiding the party of 9. Thank you very much, Faraway. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much. Yeah, please check his channel. Welcome, dear new viewers. Actually, we are studying the different imbalances from the book Jeremy Silman's How to Reassess Your Chess. Yeah, you can just look also this the link of the book. I really suggest you to get the book if you want to improve your position understanding. This is a phenomenally good book. So why bishop c4 is not so good? What can white do here? Actually, f3 I think is just the simplest way to play f3 to block the bishop. But also we can go out of this skewer by check, queen c4 check. And if it goes away, then the rook can move, maybe. Yeah, actually, even rook d4 is a nice move. Attack the bishop. We cannot really take it, because then check comes, winning the other bishop. So, no, actually, no, this is protected, sorry, but there is bishop d5. Yeah, bishop d5 wins back the piece, wins back the exchange, because after here, you can capture. So making some exchanges with the extra material, that's usually favors white. Or also can play bishop c6 to make sure the bishop is saved, and then later move the rook. So bishop g4 also not solving the problem for black. So king h8 was played here. And what would you do with white? This is a really important idea, actually, what I always telling to my students. When you win material, then what you should try to do, you should try to consolidate your position after that. So make sure everything protected, everything defended, and every piece has a nice position. Because many times when you win a pawn, maybe one of your pieces go too far, or more pieces go far away, or far away maybe from your king, or far away from one part of the board, from the other part of, or maybe there will be some less number of pieces, maybe they will be vulnerable. So then just try to consolidate, and here I think there is a perfect move for that. Bishop g2, just go back home. So have the same position like before, but with an extra pawn. That's, I think, that's what I would actually prefer. Of course, maybe queen c4. This is a more aggressive, more optimistic move. So to control the c6 square. So if he wants to keep the square, so preventing black to play like try to play c6, d5 to make a blockade, queen c4 even helps that. Okay. So I think which is important about the material, if you win material, then try to consolidate the position. And look if the opponent has some good resources to justify the material loss, some compensation. Okay, and I think we have time for one more imbalance for this time, which will be about the control of a key file. The roads for the rooks. So let me set up a position. First, I put on the pawns. You look already from this pawn structure, you can look one thing. There is a file which has no pawns. That's really important, the file with no pawns, if you have rooks, because the file with no pawns we call an open file. And actually rooks like open files because in the open files actually there is no pawn to block them. Because the rooks runs on files or ranks, and they like the ranks or files when there are nothing in the way. Look, okay, I think we have this one, yeah. White to move. So what is the typical situation here and what we would discuss? So as you look, the E file is the open file. This is why white has some advantage here, because he has the double rooks on the file. That's one positive idea. What usually the defending player would like to do in this kind of position would like to play rook e8 to try to exchange the opponent's rook. So he would try to claim control on the file, or actually at least neutralize it. White has also more space on the queen side. Yeah, the pawns are more advanced. Plus the light square pawns are really strong. So the light squares are really strong for white because the bishop, especially with the position with opposite color bishops, the squares can be really strong or really weak because the opponent cannot defend the same colors like one bishop's attacks. So here white, the bishop controls the light squares, the black bishop, yeah, the dark square bishop cannot defend the light squares anymore. Richard Shotgun, thank you very much for the follow. So the good move for white is to play rook c6 first and forever, preventing the black rook to go to e8 to try to neutralize the rooks. Yeah, and black has no really active plan, can just wait for what will white do. And yeah, of course he hopes white cannot break in, which actually he has some positive possibilities or hopes, because the bishop controls, that's another important idea in about rooks and open files, the penetration squares. So actually the square on the open file, which on the 7th rank or the 2nd rank, that's normally the penetration square. and the question if it's defended or not. And actually now it's defended, because without that bishop, white would use the open file to penetrate maybe on the seventh rank and then start to attack the pawns, but that square is now defended by the bishop. Yeah, so it's white normally just plays here for the win or for the draw, and probably black can only hope for a draw or for a loss. So it will be, I think, a long process, long and probably hard process for black to play on. So if you would play like with this with white, try to play as long as you look a chance. Try to improve the position. Probably the plan for white will be somehow to improve and move on. I think the white on the king side pawns slowly improve the position until gaining more space. So when you're playing about the imbalances, usually you try to combine them. So try to combine the advantage of different imbalances, and then, because of course there are situations just one advantage in one imbalance will be enough. One positional factor will be enough to win the game. For example, the opponent has a weak pawn, you will attack it and you will win it. But sometimes you need more than one, because here you have the open file, but this is not enough yet, because he's defending all the squares. So probably you need to use also the positional factor of the space advantage. Maybe gain more space to try to force this bishop away from the defending square, or try to use, if you gain more space, and then maybe try to open up the position on the king side somehow to attack maybe the black king. That can be a plan. Okay, so in this session actually we discussed a few of the imbalances. We start to discuss. So we discussed the super minor piece. So we discussed the two positions, one where the bishop was better, then one where the knight was better. Then we discussed about the pawn structures. Yeah, we looked at one position where there was a super strong pass pawn, and then we looked at the position where there was a weak isolated pawn. Then we discussed the idea of space advantage, and we looked material. We looked at the situation when we can gain material, and we discussed also in this last example the control of a key file. Yeah, thank you very much for joining, and hope we will be able to meet in the next episodes about Reassess Your Chess with International Master Attila Turzo, where we will discuss the different positional ideas based on the book How to Reassess Your Chess by Jeremy Silman. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you very much.